excited to get to hear from our school board candidates. And I just want you all to know that we did invite most everybody to this forum, and I say most because I had a little typo when I was inviting Kelly Wentworth. So I have to say to you, say to her especially, how sorry I am, because I just left a number out when I was doing her email, and I feel terrible about it. So anyway, but we intended to invite everybody to the forum, but I feel really bad about Kelly. She's a great girl. It's really been so much fun to get to know the candidates. We're just really blessed here in Brevard County to have such great people stand up to run for office, and so many great people that care about the children of Brevard Public Schools. We're very, very fortunate. I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Karen Fulton, and I am the chapter chair for Moms for Liberty for Brevard County. I've been doing this about 2 years with my sidekick, Chris Bird, who I really should rely on to do all the emails from now on. She usually does send things out, but I thought I could do that. Anyway, so yes, so we are the chapter chair and vice chair for Moms for Liberty. And we're very lucky tonight to be joined by MAHA, who is our good friend. She's helped us out a lot and spoken at our chapter meetings, so we love her. She is a speech therapist and by trade, but she has lots of other talents. She is a leader in the Children's Health Defense, and she's a MAHA advocate and also an autism advocate. And she has lots of other things that she does. Those are my favorites. So, so we appreciate her coming tonight. So we're going to try to make these children healthy again and better educated again. So that's our goal. We're going to start. We start our Moms for Liberty meetings with a little prayer. So I'm going to offer a prayer for us tonight so that we can get started. And following that, we'll go from there. So, our dear Heavenly Father, we are indeed grateful today to meet as we consider the candidates for the Brevard Public Schools. We're grateful for these fine people and the dedication they have to making their community better. We're grateful for them. We're also grateful for the other candidates that aren't here tonight and the dedication that they show. We're grateful for that. We're grateful for our current school board. We're grateful for our teachers and our students, and pray thy blessing to be upon them. Pray thy blessing to be upon this evening, that we might be able to have discernment and that we might be able to listen carefully and know of the things that are being presented to us and how they align with our own values. Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this opportunity, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so if we'll stand, we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're lucky tonight because we have a past school board candidate. Max Nadel is going to come. We have something we do with our Moms for Liberty meetings called Madison Minute, where we honor our founding fathers. We take a minute and have a quote from one of our founding fathers or founding mothers, and just kind of give a nod to those people that came before us and the sacrifices that they made and how they set up this beautiful country that we have. So we'll turn the time to Max for that.
So my quote that I picked from one of our founding fathers was from Benjamin Franklin, and it goes as such. The noblest question in the world is, what good may I do? I think this quote is extremely important while we have all of these candidates up here. What good can they do for our schools and for our students? Thank you.
Okay, so let's get right to it. We have 5 school board candidates that are with us tonight, and I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves. They'll have 3 minutes, and we have our timekeeper here, Amy, with the flag. So she's going to keep 15-second
I'm
flash?
gonna try my best, guys, because I'm gonna be listening too. So I will try my best to give you a heads up.
Okay, she'll give you a little wave with the flag when you're getting close, okay? So we'll go ahead and start. We'll just start with Megan and go down.
All right, well, thank you, Karen. My name is Megan Wright, and I am a born and raised Brevard County resident, which is something rare to find these days in our wonderful county. Lived here my entire life. I went through Brevard County Public Schools. I met my husband here in Brevard County, and we obviously got married, and we have 2 children. One is still in Brevard County Public Schools. And I started a business here in Brevard County. Love this place with all of my heart. So serving the community has been something I've been passionate about always. So our family was always involved, whether it was through church, serving children there, or if it was Little League, or at different sports. My daughter plays volleyball now, so we spend a lot of time courtside there as well. But I've had the privilege and the honor of spending the last almost 4 years now on the Brevard County School Board, and what a wild ride that has been in 4 years. But it's also been just overwhelmingly positive. So much good has come in that time, and we've seen tremendous growth and challenges come our way, but we faced each one of those and used it as an opportunity to figure out how we can better our students. So very grateful to have the opportunity to serve the county. It's an honor and a privilege, and I'll look forward to this forum tonight. So you're not going to get the full 3 minutes from me, Amy, so thank you. Turn these off in between. Amy did. That way you can get feedback from all the way.
I can also turn it down here. It's a problem. I didn't hear any feedback from the video.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tara Coach Gibson, and I run for Brevard County School Board District 1. I am a proud graduate of the University of Central Florida, where I also played basketball there as a student athlete. And I did start my master's program at University. I didn't finish that though, but I did start. I have over 15 years of experience in higher ed and public education. Currently, I work with dual enrolled students. Max actually was one of my students when he was at Viera. So I work with dual enrolled students, helping them navigate a pathway from high school to college and meaningful careers. I'm running because district deserves to be a priority, not an afterthought. I have a deep passion for students and education, and I believe our community is ready for leadership that's both innovative and committed to meaningful progress. I'm stepping forward because I know I can help lead District 1 into a future with fresh ideas, a student-centered mindset, and a determination to ensure our schools and families receive the attention and support they deserve. Thank you.
All right, so then you have 3 minutes. I'm going to talk about my 5 kids a little bit. My name is Gene Trent. I'm the current school board for District 2. I've had the pleasure to serve with Megan for the 3 years, going on 4 years. And a little bit about me. Been married 35 years. Been a resident of Brevard for 10 years. Like many of our neighbors, have been vacationing here since the 80s, since high school. So I do have 5 children. I can brag on them a little bit. I got 4 boys and a girl, and that's one of the reasons I ran 4 years ago. I had 3 in school. I had 2 adult children at the time, and now I just have one left. But they range from 32 years all the way down to 15 years old. So I've got a podiatrist, I've got an ER nurse, I've got a Navy nuke, and I have a healthcare worker who decided college wasn't for him. He got hired by Health First, and he graduated last year. And then I have a 9th grade girl. So all the parents out there with multiple girls, God bless you. It's been a wonderful experience. But I married my high school sweetheart, and like I said, we moved here 10 years ago. I've been in education for over 20 years. I was an adult that went into education, and that's been a blessing. Be able to raise my family on a teacher's schedule. That's something that you can't give back at that time. So that was good. Quickly, why I ran in 2022. I think we're all old enough to be awake in 2022 after COVID. What happened? It took a lot of parents to persuade a lot of people around the country to establish organizations like Moms for Liberty, but the adults had to stand up and take their education system back. And you've witnessed it, where the teachers union and many of the districts were putting policies in between parents and the children. So I stood up, and I was lucky enough to win in 2022, and we've made some great changes. I mean, if you look back, People didn't realize what was going on in Brevard. We had been a B district for over 5 years when we took over and over. In less than 1 year, we turned it around to be an A district. And last year, we just posted the highest graduation rate in the history of Brevard County. So we believe we've got it on the right track. And we're going to keep going. So vote for James Trenton District 2.
Good evening, and Karen, thank you again for the invitation. My name is Cecilia Trotter, and I am running for School Board District 5. I am a native of Miami, Florida. I'm one of 9 kids, and yes, same mom and dad. And I have always heard in our household how important education is. And in 2007, I joined the teaching force as a second career. Like Jean, I wanted to spend time with my daughters. I was a restaurant owner at the time, and I needed to spend time with my daughters because they were getting to, they were in 4th and 2nd grade, and I knew that it was time for me to be with them. And so I joined the school down in Brevard County, and I was teaching there for 12 years. I have seen firsthand what strong public schools can do for our children. And I want to make sure that our public schools stay strong for every child. Our communities count on strong public schools. Our property value counts on strong public schools. So we need to keep that in mind. Every child deserves an education. And our Constitution in Florida demands a high quality education for every student. And I wanted to run for school board because in the last 6 years that I've been teaching in Brevard County, I have seen a decline of teacher appreciation, a decline in what teachers are able to do in the classroom, and all the extra work that has been placed on teachers. So I want to make sure that we keep our high quality teachers in our classroom. I want to make sure that our teachers are respected, and I also want to make sure that our families and students are respected. And that's why I decided to run. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tammy Dennis, candidate for School Board District 5. And I'm running because I want students to be educated and not indoctrinated. I am a woman of faith, and I believe in traditional family values. So I don't want to go back to that kind of thinking. Boys and girls restrooms, inappropriate literature in school libraries, or discipline so lacking we couldn't keep bus drivers. On my watch, we will not go back. We will move forward with common sense over nonsense. And with that, I have 3 priorities to support students' education. The first one is student readiness. This one is fun for me. Of course, they need reading, writing, math, civic, so they understand their government. But then as they grow and develop, they need a path. So I will champion trades, skills, and STEM programs and help connect them with apprenticeships, internships, and employment. I'm already doing a little piece of that. I helped form a coalition to bring opportunities to students, such as scholarships and STEM-related activities, and we launched a website containing all of these resources, and the first ever countywide enlistment ceremony. I will continue to work tirelessly to bring those opportunities to the students. Secondly, fiscal responsibility. I've been serving on the Oversight Committee for over 4 years, overseeing $54 million in annual surtax. And I'm on the Audit Committee overseeing audits of operations, processes, and finances across the district. With this, I get a good look at what's working and what's not, and how important it is that every single dollar makes it to the student. And with this large-scale budget experience, I can help make those hard choices for over 70,000 students. Did my mic
See if it's off.
Check the screen.
focus on our 70,000 plus students first. Their education is my #1 priority. And thirdly is parental involvement, parental voice. I will stand firm with parents to be informed and involved about every aspect of their child's education and development, both in being informed what's happening and also that they get to choose the direction of their child.
Hello. All right, before we get started with questions, I want to walk you through how tonight's going to work. So each candidate will get the opportunity to answer every question. None of the candidates have seen these questions in advance. You will each have 1 minute to respond, and please watch for the flag and be respectful of the remaining time. I ask everyone in the audience to be respectful during the responses, and please hold your applause till the end. And candidates, watch your time again, and so everyone gets a fair chance. So let's get started. Karen has the first question.
Okay.
Hey, Karen. Karen.
Yes.
I'm gonna wave the flag when time is up.
Okay.
Just to not distract. Just
Okay.
so you guys are aware. I think that's easier.
Okay, so since we started with Megan, we'll start with Tara next. And so our first question is, what is your relationship with the teachers union, past and present, and has it shaped any positions that you hold?
I'm not affiliated with the teachers union, so no.
It's
I
easy.
don't know what to say about that. I'm not affiliated. Thank you.
I am no longer affiliated with the teachers union. I've never been a member of the teachers union here in Brevard. I had the opportunity to work with the teachers union on multiple occasions throughout my time on the school board. And that was mainly when teachers that were members of the union had an issue, they'd contact their union rep, and then someone from the union would obviously call school board members, because the union, they really can't fix anything without us. So we're the ones who actually then come in and talk to either the principal or sit them down, and the union people are there with us. I believe teachers, if they want to be part of the union, they can be, but there's options and choices out there. Just like I'm for parental choice, I'm for teacher choice, and there are some free options out there that they don't have to be shelling money to, and they don't have to be told who to vote for, and when to vote, and how to act. There's groups out there that'll do this all for free, and they'll, Teachers Freedom Alliance is one that is big at Brevard now, so I'm all for that.
Okay, as a teacher, a classroom teacher, I am part of the teacher union, and I strongly support the teacher union. I believe in the teacher union because as a teacher, we need to have a voice. We need to have one point of contact that we can relate to, talk to, and relay any problems to. And in that point of contact, we'll then talk to the school board. So yes, I'm a big believer in teacher union. I believe it helps strengthen the teacher's ability to survive in the classroom.
So I have not ever been part of a teachers union or any union, actually, in my life.
All right, so my involvement with the teachers union really comes from my role on the board. Prior to stepping on the board, obviously I had no involvement there, but as Jean mentioned, really, we had a good working relationship with our union for several years, and then for some reason, I don't know why, but it turned a little sour recently. But he is correct, the union would have issues brought to them, then they would reach out to the board member, and the board member then advocates for that teacher. So, I've told the union from day one, since when I first ran, I would love nothing more than us not to have a union, because the district advocates so well for their employees that a union isn't needed. Now, I realized prior to the board that's sitting in place right now, that probably the union was needed at that point. But at this point, I think we're doing a great job as far as, I have teachers that will bypass the union directly, and they'll come right to me and ask me, hey, can you get involved, and can you help advocate for these certain issues? And we've been successful there. So don't have any involvement other than my professional relationship with them currently, being
a state issue. I know they're talking about it now in certain situations. In general ed classrooms, as a classroom teacher, I would not advocate for that. That would really cause a mass exodus of teachers, of just being able to have the relationship with the teachers. I do, though, think there's a conversation in classrooms where the students are maybe nonverbal and they can't advocate for themselves at all. I know Mr. Traynor is big at the state level on that, and I agree with him on that. That's where it needs to be looked at, is in those classrooms where the students cannot advocate for themselves. But that's a big conversation. And again, with teachers' unions, good luck with that one.
As a teacher, absolutely not for the cameras in the classroom. Again, that would really harbor the relationship. For a professional, being under the scrutiny of a camera all day long is just ridiculous. I don't think anybody would agree to work underneath the eye of a camera all day long. And as far as special education, again, this is something that really needs to be discussed. It needs to be discussed on a state level, and you have to have the input of teachers and teachers' unions, because again, we have rights. And if it is for a classroom where there's nonverbal students involved, of course we want to make sure that their safety is paramount. But I believe between background checks and making sure that we hire high-quality teachers, pay them what they deserve to be paid, then we can keep those classrooms safe and keep those children safe.
So my gut on that is it feels like that would be really intrusive for the teacher and the students in their interaction, but I would want to understand what the thinking is behind that. What is it that they're trying to achieve? And see if there are other ways to get to the goal. So I would need to know more about what it is exactly that they're trying to, what is the end goal for wanting to do that? And we need to look at that and find if there isn't a better way to get to that goal.
Okay, all right, so I have a bit of a different stance on this. I think that this is a complicated question that needs to be asked from multiple different angles. So our teachers obviously being part of it, but I think our family is a big part of it. When it comes to the self-contained unit, I'm going to be very careful because I don't want to obviously violate sunshine. I will speak about things we have advocated for in the past. I have advocated for in the past absolutely getting cameras in our self-contained units. For our kids that are nonverbal and they cannot tell us what is happening when they come home, how does a parent know that their child is safe every day? If the child comes home to them and has an unexplained bruise, it would be, well within their right for a parent to say, hey, what's going on? And if they had a camera to be able to review something, I believe it would make them feel a little more comfortable and safe with what's happening there. Now, as far as in the regular classroom, I have two mindsets with this because I tend to think people that don't want to be on camera are usually people that aren't doing things the correct way. Now, that may not be true all the time. I get some people don't like, they don't want government looking at certain things. But you also have to face it. We live in a day and age now where teachers sometimes have kids hurling objects at them. If I were a teacher, I might want that evidence to help substantiate, what took place in my classroom. Sorry, I only have 1 minute. But, so that's a complicated question. Sorry.
It is a complicated question, but I agree. People are saying no in the regular classroom. Students who are nonverbal, obviously, we want to take a look at that because their safety is imperative. So I would agree taking a look at that.
Thank you. I know it is a complicated question, but I appreciate your thoughts on all of it. It's interesting. All right, let's talk about school libraries. We have all kinds of complicated issues here, okay? No softball. Okay, so school libraries have always included books with difficult themes, including abuse, pregnancy, relationships, and trauma. But today, many parents are concerned that some books labeled as young adult include explicit descriptions or depictions of sex acts and adult sexual themes that would not have been considered appropriate for school libraries not that long ago. As a school board member, where personally would you draw the line? Should sexually explicit books be available to minors in school libraries, and if so, at what age or grade level? And And I know some of this is just going to depend on the book. I get that. If not, what specific policy would you support to remove, restrict, or require parental permission for those books? Where do we start? I think we're just going to get longer than a minute.
So again, a very hot topic, the ban of books. We have to decide, we have to give it, our librarians and our media specialists who have been have gone through professional development to follow our state statutes and laws on the books. And we have to trust them because that's what they're getting paid to do. Now, as a parent, if I don't want my child to be exposed to certain books, then there should be an opt-out form, and I know Brevard County has an opt-out form that parents are allowed to sign and put in place to restrict what my child can and cannot access. And again, I believe in high school, middle school, it depends on what the book is, what the author is, and what the content is. So again, it's a very hot topic.
So I think that the literature offered in our libraries should be age appropriate. And so if there is sexually explicit material in there, I do not think it should be in the school library all the way through age 17 because they have to be 18 to see an R-rated movie. If it can't be read to the public, then it should not be accessible, easily accessible in the school library. They can get that in other places, but I think that as a parent, I would want to know that when my kids go to the school library, that that would not be easily accessible to them. So that's where I would draw the line, is the sexually explicit part.
All right, well, I've been on the board during a lot of these hot topics, and I will say I have read every one of the challenge books that have come before us, and I had to apologize to my own husband because some of the stuff that I was reading was so vulgar, it absolutely did not belong in my hands nor a child's hands. So I think the line really should be drawn. I would love to see our state be the first one to take like a rating system, much like if you wanted to buy a CD that had curse words. Guess what? You have to make sure that if it has explicit content, there's a label on it. Something to that nature that would help us be able to identify that this book maybe isn't safe in everyone's hands. To me, I have a kid that's going into those libraries, and I want to make sure that every book she picks up is safe for her to read. It's not going to expose her to things she's not ready to be exposed to, and then we're going to have hard conversations that maybe are inappropriate for her age and her development level. So if it couldn't be a movie in the school, it probably shouldn't be a book in the school. That's probably a pretty easy standard to kind of look by.
Well, I've been out talking to people, parents. Our kids can barely read. So I think the bigger issue is how are we going to focus on these kids reading? They're not reading. A lot of them are not reading on a level. I'm hearing it from people in the street. So, and also in regards to that, obviously I agree with Cecilia said. I mean, the librarians are in place to do their jobs. We have to trust them with that. But the bigger issue, really, if you think these kids in public schools, because you may raise your kid right, but if somebody ain't raising their kid right, so that information is going to get to them. The best thing to do is, I have the 3 P's of parenting. What I focus on is you have to provide for your kids, right? We have to protect our kids, and then we have to prepare our kids. You have to prepare them for the world they live in. You're not going to be living in a bubble. You're going to see stuff. If they have a cell phone, believe me, they already seen it. If they got friends in school, believe me, they already heard it. These kids, we got kids that are in trouble in middle school. They getting pregnant, having sex, and doing all kinds of things in middle school. It is happening right in our faces.
They learn how to do that stuff in their current libraries.
Yeah.
That's a shame. So as a teacher and as a parent, I have a minute. That's all I have. Is we've dealt with this. So another reason to continue the board the way it is we dealt with this in Brevard. We're handling it. We've had very little since we put all the processes in place. As a classroom teacher, I have to have parental permission to show a movie over PG-13 and above. Why isn't it any different to have a book like that in our libraries? And you don't need to read to look at some of the garbage that we took out of our libraries. Those were illustrated pornography books. So I had older people when I'm out there door knocking and talking, they're like, "Why wasn't there when I put in for a reason. They want our children. We said no. The adults stood up and said, not in our schools. And that's the way it's going to stay.
Let's hold on, hold no applause until the end, okay? Because that's we are ahead of schedule, just so you know.
Well, this question's it's a multifaceted question, so it's going to take a little bit more time. Okay?
So yeah, let's do that, because this is a longer question.
Well, yeah, let's
like you
question
have to
because,
use all 2 minutes if you don't want to.
right, and there's multiple parts to this, okay. So here it goes. Florida has changed course in recent years on DEI, social emotional learning, gender identity in schools, biological males in girls' bathrooms and locker rooms, and biological males competing in girls' sports. Do you support Florida's current direction in each of these issues, or would you vote to return Brevard schools to the policies and practices that existed before these reforms? It keeps going. All right. Okay, please answer each one of these directly, and if any policy you would reverse, tell us exactly what you would replace it with. We're going to start with DEI, keep or reverse. Tammy, I think it goes to you. I think so, right?
Yes.
I support the current, what you said.
DEI policies that the state's
That, yeah, that we should be moving away from that. I am for merit-based look at things, not through DEI eyes. Merit-based.
I support the state stance on this one. I'm obviously would keep it the same way that it is right now. So I agree. I think we should look at a person as a whole and look at are they qualified for this position? Are they qualified for whatever it is we're asking to do? Not so much look at, okay, well, we have to meet a quota. We have so many boys in this. We need to put so many girls. Or we have so many white people in this. We need to put so many white people in it. I don't think that that's fair. I think we should be merit-based and everyone should earn their spot.
Tana.
And I think that's why representation matters, because being an African American, I can speak on this. We needed to reverse it. We need it back. It's so that we can have, when we talk about equality and fair representation, there are more white people than black people, if we just want to keep it in white and black. So obviously, if we're already at a disadvantage. So to keep the playing field equal, it would be great for us to have a reverse so we can have a chance. I know as a black person, we have to work 10 times as harder as any white person, period. That's how it's always been. That's how it is. We move differently. And if you talk to anybody that's African American, they will tell you the same thing. They'll tell you, we have to work 10 times as hard, and that's how it's been. So that's how I feel about DEI in regards to reversing that, giving everybody an opportunity.
So again, this is was a hot topic in 2022, not quite as much anymore because the adults stood up and took charge again and said we're going to base situations on merit, and we need to move off that. We saw the disastrous decisions that were made as the corporations were moving off of that, the universities were moving off of that. In Brevard, we removed and eliminated the DEI position at the district level, and we have not looked back. Again, if you have 2 people, you're going to interview and you're going to hire the best person for that. And there should not be anybody getting an advantage over another person. And we don't want to teach that lesson to our children. That's a horrible lesson to teach. So I would not want to put that burden on the youth. So keep this safe.
I would definitely reverse it. As a woman, I understand we have to work so much harder to get recognized for the job that we do. So I believe as a perspective that we need different perspectives and point of views on any type of board, wherever we go, because we all have our own experiences, and once we share those experiences with other people and we see somebody else's point of view, then we grow as a person, and we can grow as a community, and we grow as a country.
All right, Florida's resiliency approach in place of broader SEL frameworks. Keep or reverse? Starting with you, Megan.
So SEL is social emotional learning. So I obviously would love to teach resiliency. We need to teach our kids how to get back up, and when we start to cater to feelings, we start getting into the weeds of what is fair, what is not, and resiliency is what matters. Our kids need to know, hey, it's okay to make a mistake. get back up, let's try it again. When we start looking at coddling feelings, I feel like that's where we get into trouble, and everyone's a little different in that arena, so let's teach them how to carry on.
Tara. Florida's resiliency approach in place of broader SEL frameworks.
I'm not really understanding the question.
Do you want to keep it the way it is, or reverse it?
The social emotional learning, are you not familiar with that?
No.
Yeah, keeps the resiliency, that aspect over the broader SEL. Again, the resiliency does need to be taught, and it needs to be in the proper places. There's programs out there, and again, I guess I can't say a whole lot because we may vote on some things, so I got to keep that away from Maggie. But there are other districts who are teaching resiliency, say through PE classes, and because there's a lot of life lessons in PE, and resiliency is a huge part of life, and we would love to teach it at school, and it's perfectly fine because there's so many lessons we can teach through sports and through activities, but maybe not so much in our classrooms where we give kids safe spaces and coddle. I think Maggie used that word. Again, I think that might be an old, outdated topic now because after COVID, we kind of took over and said, no, we're not doing that. Resiliency is the new way to go.
I love the SEL program. As a second grade teacher, it was amazing. And it really helped our students. Again, going back, we all come from different backgrounds. I was very blessed to spend time with my children, my two daughters, and I raised them. And I taught them how to use their feelings, how to use their words, especially as girls, and how to stand up for themselves. A lot of these students come into kindergarten, first grade, second grade. They don't know how to express their feelings. They don't know what words to use. And so they hit, they kick, they throw things because they don't know. So when we teach them using a program like Conscious Discipline, which we had, and which was a wonderful program, we really made great strides. And if we start that in our kindergarten, first grade, second grade, the elementary schools, VPK, we can make a difference in a child's life.
I support the state's resiliency effort. I think that is the right goal. We need to meet our kids where they are. If they have the issues that Cecilia is mentioning, absolutely, we have to meet them there. And we have to help them, but the goal is to help them be resilient. And I think the goal is still resiliency, and whatever it takes to work out how to help them, that's what we need to provide, and it may not even always be in the classroom, it could be something outside the classroom that can help get them to where they can be a part of what's going on and learn how to be resilient. That will be the best result for them as they grow and develop into adults.
All right. Excuse me. Sex-specific bathrooms and locker rooms, keep or reverse? And I think it goes to you, Tara.
I never knew there was a combination of bathrooms where people could share bathrooms, so this is new to me. But I think we're moving into a time where we need to look at certain things in regards to trans kids coming along. Because like I said, in public schools, we welcome everybody. And so we don't judge them, we welcome them and embrace them, and make them willing to have a safe space. So obviously I feel like being an athlete, former athlete, and a coach, I understand the importance of separation. So, boys should have their locker room, girls should have their locker room, but as we're moving forward, innovation is coming. That's where you have your new and fresh ideas. We need to have what we consider family bathrooms where people who are, discovering themselves can have a place where they can safely change and be feel welcome and a sense of belonging.
So back in 2022, when we were running, we saw that Brevard schools at that time had a LGBTQ guideline that said that students and staff could choose the bathroom or locker room of their choice. And when that was made public, that was a big deal. We didn't believe we had that in Brevard. That was one of the first things that we did, was reverse that. I believe that was on our first meeting. So once again, we listened to you, to get that out of our schools. And it was a guideline, not a policy, because a guideline doesn't need to be voted on. And there was a list of things in there that we took out. And it was all based on fear of being sued. So that's gone. Boys go to boys' bathrooms and locker rooms, girls go to girls. And for those that are confused, I mean, that's why we have our counselors and our programs that would help those individuals, because we do service all of our children. So I think we've got that handled, and we need to keep it.
So as a mother of two daughters, absolutely, I would not ever want them to go into a locker room and have a male in there. So yes, I'm very, for the sex-specific locker rooms and bathrooms. However, just like as no one ever thought there was going to be a women's NBA, we have to be forward-thinking. And we need to have safe spaces for our students who we service in public schools who are trans. And I believe we need a safe area, a safe changing room for them, where they feel welcomed and they don't feel embarrassed or they're going to get bullied by anybody. So I want to make sure that they feel welcome.
So I believe that, clearly, I already mentioned it, that I do believe biological boys should be using boy bathrooms and girls, and I believe the same with sports, that boys should be in boys' sports and girls in girls' sports. It is unfair to girls. It is unsafe for girls, for biological boys to come into their space. And really, vice versa, it's uncomfortable as well. So I am totally not for mixing that. And when it comes to kids that are struggling with who they are, I think we need to come alongside them, find out, like Jean mentioned, the counselors, the mental health people in our departments that can help walk with them and help them figure out what's going on. Why is it that they cannot accept the body that God gave them? That we just have to be with, we have to walk with them through that.
I believe in biological reality. There are two genders. There's male and there's female, and that we should have male bathrooms and we should have female bathrooms, and it's as simple as that. I have a daughter. I absolutely would never ever support a trans student coming in and changing in a locker room in front of my daughter because they're confused about who they are. I wouldn't support that. I'm sorry. I don't think it's fair to expose everybody else to that because they're struggling. So give them the help that they need. It is a matter of confusion. There are two genders. That is it. There are males and there are females. So that's where I stand on that. And as far as this goes to, one of the other things I think we need to mention is that we had teachers come forward in 2022 that were telling us that there are females that are identifying, quote unquote, as males, and they're going into the male locker room where the male teachers and coaches are and changing and exposing themselves. That is dangerous. That is dangerous to the child that is there. It is inappropriate to force our staff to be exposed to that. There has to be some sanity here to prevail. So I, again, stick behind boys and boys bathrooms, girls and girls bathrooms.
Okay, this is the last one in this DEI questions. Girls sports reserved for female athletes. Keep or reverse? Can start with Eugene.
I know you're wondering what I'm going to say.
Yeah, not at all. None whatsoever.
I have a 14-year-old daughter myself. I'll expound on that. And there's absolutely no way do I want to have, she runs track and swims, if I'm going to have a boy in that same sport or follow her into the locker room. Go back to the last question. But I think the Supreme Court kind of made a decision on some of this as well. But again, the adults stood up and said, we've just got to stop playing, and we can't have the tail wagging the dog. And we can't have, when it's a complete issue of mental illness and confusion, that we don't step up and try to help that student, like Tammy had said. So we need to recognize it, but absolutely, boys, girls, two genders.
Cecilia.
Okay, trans is not mental illness.
Thank
Yeah, I mean, yes, I just want to make sure that I was thinking back in the 1900s that it was mental illness. Girls belong in girls' sports. Again, I have two daughters. My one daughter was a soccer player. My other daughter was a swimmer. And absolutely not. I know how hard my daughters worked. My one daughter went to college on a scholarship for soccer, so no, shouldn't have boys playing on that team. So I believe girls belong in girls' sports. But again, thinking of the future, I'm not too sure. I don't have the data how many trans students we have in Brevard County, but maybe moving forward in the future, maybe we have to have teams with only trans students. I don't know. But again, we cannot not pretend that these people exist. They exist. They're part of our community, and they're part of our families, and we must stand with them at all times.
Well, I definitely believe that biological boys should not be competing in girls' sports. I think it sounds like maybe we all agree on that. It is unfair to the girls. We've worked very hard for years, for girls' sports to develop and be popular, and then it's not safe for them because that is a fact that boys are just physically made differently than girls. And so I think we have to protect that at all costs.
Much like Eugene, I'm sure everyone's done to know what I'm saying. On this one, that biological reality, once again, no matter how many hormone suppressants you take, they still have more testosterone. A male has more testosterone than females. So obviously I would not support, men playing in women's sports or women playing in men's sports. They need to be separated.
So I grew up playing in the park with boys. I played basketball with boys. I gave them that work. I was one of the first ones to choose to pick on their team, so I know what it's like to play with boys. And it's right, like there's a different type of strength. Men have a different type of strength. There's no doubt about it, right? But again, my thing is this. I think we all agree. We understand. I think it's clear that girls should be in girls' sports and boys should be in boys' sports. And like Cecilia mentioned, what we're progressively moving into the future. There are girls that play football, tackle football. I don't know, some of you know that, my sports people. There are some girls that play tackle football. So there is interest in that area, and I think we'll look at it a case-by-case situation. If there's a girl that wants to play in a sport that's not typically hers, so that thing, I think we should keep them separate, obviously for safety and physical reasons, right? I definitely agree with that, but I don't think we have a closed mind moving forward to what's happening with our community and our society.
All right, thank you. All right. This is what's so beautiful of these forums is we do have different viewpoints. Every candidate up here has a different view, and that's why we're here tonight, is to see inside your minds and what you're thinking. And then we have to figure out, well, which one fits closer to what I think. All right, so we're going to stop talking about those things, and we're going to talk about handwriting now. Are you ready for that? Okay. Research shows that handwriting supports brain development, reading readiness, memory, and fine motor skills. Yet many students today are no longer taught cursive well enough to read or write it confidently. Do you believe cursive handwriting should be required in both Brevard Public Elementary Schools, and what would you do as a school board member to ensure students are not losing this foundational skill? Where did we, are we in Cecilia? That's right, Jean went first. Cecilia.
We do. Yeah, so it's Cecilia.
So as a second grade teacher, when my daughters were younger and they went to a Catholic school, in second grade they learned cursive by writing the Psalms. And so that was part of their religion. Education was writing Psalms in cursive. And nowadays, as a second grade teacher, I will tell you, we have very little time to teach cursive. We have a hard time, especially because our students are coming in not ready to read, not reading, We have a lot of time that we have to spend on phonics. We have a lot of time that we have to spend on comprehension, fluency. So, but with that being said, it is very important that our children move away from the screen time, pick up a pencil, and hit it to the paper, because that is what our students need. Our students already know how to use screens. We should eliminate more of the screen time and allow them to use their expression with pencil, paper, get that writing. And I agree with you. Learning cursive is very good for the brain, and I only write in cursive, so it's very hard for me not to write in cursive. But again, it's a state mandate now. Please fund it. Fund it with actual money. So not just another thing we have to do in a public classroom.
Yes, I support teaching cursive writing. I agree 100% with Cecilia on less screen, more writing. All the studies that are coming out now are incredible about how important those are for just brain development. And the Surgeon General, Acting Surgeon General, just posted a study on screen time. And honestly, that's been in the back of my head that if I am so blessed to have the opportunity to serve you on the board, that I will be looking more specifically into the screen time and how much we are using screen versus writing. And I love that Cecilia is old-fashioned when it comes to how she's teaching. Thank you.
So we can thank our legislature because they actually passed this, so thank you for doing that and taking that initiative. I appreciate you. I absolutely support this, and this is, I think, probably something that surprisingly we will all agree on. I think our children need to get away from the screen time. I think screens are not helpful for our kids. It exposes them to too many things, and I think good old-fashioned teaching in front of a student is the best way to reach that student. So I support the Cursive initiative. I will be here for it. We will figure out a way to make it happen. We're looking forward to making sure our kids have all the skills that they need to succeed.
I definitely too support it. Like I said, I work with Blue World students, and so there's several times when I have students, I need you to sign this. They're like, sign? Like, yeah, I need you to sign. They don't know how to sign their name, so I've had students put an X. They honestly don't know how to sign that thing. In regards to when we talk about moving forward, we have to have some of the old school with the new school, right? Yes, we're moving into technology, but there's some things in life in regards to development that we just have to have in place as the foundation for learning, right? And this is one of those things that I definitely agree with.
So again, for those of you that followed the board for the last few years, even in some of our workshops, we've talked about screen time. When we're out there visiting schools, nothing boils my blood more than seeing kindergartners with headphones and sitting in front of screens. And that's been a discussion now for a few years. So we're on it. Now it's catching up. The studies are coming out. And it's a pendulum. We thought that electronics was going to be the end-all, and we have to put them all on it. We did the same thing with cell phones, probably come up later. But, that was a great thing, and now we're back to not needing it. But I can't wait till these kids are learning. It's an art. That writing in cursive is an art. And I don't think it was by accident that it was taken out of our schools. Our founding documents were written in cursive. And it's something that we need to bring back. So I'm all for it.
In June, Texas became the first state to mandate children's Bible stories and verses to be a part of the social studies curriculum for K-12 schools. Texas and Louisiana also require the Ten Commandments to be displayed in classrooms. Supporters, including Attorney General Ken Paxton, argue they are part of America's historical and legal heritage, and that displaying them is consistent with the Supreme Court's recent history and tradition approach to religious issues. They argue that the Ten Commandments in the Bible helped shape the moral assumptions underlying American law and influenced Western culture. Would you support doing the same in Florida schools?
Well, I haven't studied that fully. I do believe that we have to be very forthright with the truth. And the truth is that the Bible is one of the long-standing books. And there is a lot of God principles that are part of our founding fathers. And when that is part of what they're learning, they should know that. They should know that. Do I think we should have religion class in our public schools? No, I'm not looking for that. But we absolutely need to be honest with the founding principles that we have and those values that have undergirded us and why we have what we have today. So I support the 10 Commandments, but the others I would have to think more through, like exactly what we're talking about when you're talking about the teaching the Bible in the public school. But I definitely feel like any of those values that are part of our history should be taught right alongside of it. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, it's all very super important. And God is the foundation of many of that. We need to be able to say it.
All right, I'm going to have to be very careful on this one, and I have to be limited in what I can say because of things that could come before us to vote. I will say this: I absolutely love what Texas has done. I believe that our students should be taught the Judeo-Christian principles that our nation was founded on. And I don't want to go too far into the weeds of this, and Jean, I'm sure you're probably going to feel the same way, just because I don't want to get us in a situation where we could potentially be in trouble. But I love what Texas has done there. I think it's a great shining star for other places to look.
So that's a loaded question, but I am a woman of faith. So I tell people Jesus is my homeboy, my invisible friend, and where I go, he with me. He with me right now, but I'm not single. So, but absolutely. But in regards to that, I mean, that's like I said, it's a loaded question. When you talk about, like, I think it's the First Amendment or whatever it is, freedom of religion. So, I mean, when we're talking about freedom of religion, like, it's not just whatever our religion is. It's freedom for everybody to believe and worship who they feel like is their God. I agree with what Tammy said in regards to, like, a lot of our stuff was built upon the Bible in regards to history. So we're teaching as a history lesson, letting students know, like, this is where this originated from our forefathers' faith. And that, but as far as teaching them, maybe to convert them or having 2 Commandments posted as the moral compass or standard, I feel like that's a violation.
I'm excited to watch those other states, both Texas and Louisiana. And Megan, I won't put us in any position there, but I'm very excited to see that a couple states stepped up. So we'll see how that goes. I'm very excited and supportive of the route that they're going.
Okay, I'm born and raised Catholic, and I'm a practicing Catholic, and so again, Jesus is my homeboy too, Tara. And however, with that being said, a separation of church and state, and I believe our founding fathers did that for a reason, and the reason was we don't want to be overzealous in our prophesizing. And so the 10 Commandments belong in your home. They belong in your business. They can even belong in my drawer at school, but they don't belong posted in a classroom. And as far as the Bible and civics, again, if we're teaching that our founding fathers were of a Christian faith, and that's where they based some of our beliefs on, and where all men are created equal, then yes, I understand that, but not that we're teaching specific Bible verses, because then we'll have to bring in, there's over, I think, 500 recognized religions, and so who are we to choose what religion has to be represented? My best friend is Jewish. Why aren't we bringing the Torah in? My other friend is Islamic. Why aren't we bringing the Quran in? So we have to be very careful in our public spaces what we're doing. And that, for me, is indoctrination.
Right.
So, thank you.
Very good.
One big hand for everybody. All right, hold on to your hats. We just did the 250th anniversary of America, so let's talk about history. Many parents believe schools should teach America's history honestly including aspects like slavery, segregation, civil rights, but should not teach students that America is inherently racist or oppressive, that our founding principles are invalid, or that children bear guilt, privilege, or victimhood based on race, sex, or identity. So, the question is, as school board member, do you support a clear district policy requiring balanced, age-appropriate, and historically accurate instruction that honors America's founding principles while teaching its failures truthfully, and that prohibits curriculum, training, or classroom materials from promoting collective guilt, racial stereotyping, or the idea that America is fundamentally irredeemable? I know that is quite a mouthful, okay? Just tell us some of your basic feelings about that. I mean, there's a lot packed into that, but if you could just kind of share with us some of your feelings about some of those aspects that we are debating.
No, I believe that the history should be taught. I don't think that we should exclude the ugly parts of history because it makes everybody uncomfortable. But I also don't think that we should look at this and say, oh, you know, our country is inherently racist. I don't think that that's a fair thing to do. Or to say one gender, one race is less than another, or they have a harder go at things. I don't think that's fair to do either. I think we live in the land of opportunity. We have equal opportunities. We don't have equal outcomes. And a lot of that has to do with what we put forward, whatever we put forward. So I think, you know, obviously teaching the principles that our country was founded on is imperative. We have to teach that. We have to teach all parts of it. I don't think we should exclude parts of it, but it should be age appropriate because there are some lessons that I don't necessarily think a second grader is ready to hear, but that they do need to learn that in time through the public education.
So my take on it is, my mom was the first to integrate her schools. We were from the South in Georgia, and she was one of the first. My great-great-great-grandmother, my great-great-great-grandmother was a slave. So that is real in my family, so I know about that. The reason I'm light-skinned is because one of our slave owners obviously had his way. So a lot of our family is light-skinned because of that. So in regards to understanding history, when I was going to school, I didn't learn about my history. I learned about slavery, but I didn't learn about Black history. So I'm learning that now. Since COVID, I've been visiting African American museums, learning about not just us being slaves, but our plight as Black people, because we've done some great things. We're more than slaves. And so I think if we want to shine light, again, on stuff that we've done in regards to inventions and stuff that was taken from us, and white people put their name on it, saying that they did it, that stuff really happened, right? And we don't get the credit for it. And that's why the negative narrative in regards to African Americans in our community is so bad, and I want to change that negative narrative. That's why I say representation matters. That's why I'm sitting here today, because representation matters. That's why I'm sitting here today, because my mom, when she was walking to school, she was her and her best friend was the first day of school. And they were going to go to the white school. And her best friend got to the railroad tracks and said she can't do it. And she left my mom standing there. My mom had to go. She went. She went for us. And she took it, and she got bad grades because the teachers didn't like it. They didn't want her there. They had to have a group of 7, and they had to treat her. They sent her every day for lunch for support group. She can tell you, she's sitting right here. I'm not lying to you. My mom was one of the ones that had the black and the white fountains. My mom would drink out of the white fountain because she wanted to know what was so different. The water was just colder than the black fountain. So that is a lived experience for us, right? That's something that I'm standing on the shoulders of my people. So it's real, and it's more history than us just being slaves. We put our blood, sweat, and tears into this country. Thank you.
About teaching. And let's get back to that.
It is history.
And let's teach history. And I think we do teach history. And we're not, where we get the other stuff in is when teachers took it upon themselves to put some of that in. And again, we saw that during COVID when we went home to teach and it was on camera and the parents were kind of leaning in and like, what was being said in that history class? Or what was being said? That's not even history. You know, that's math class. Why is that being talked about? So absolutely, we have to teach history, not white history, not black history, amazing story. But we need to teach history. We need to make sure of that. We need to tell our teachers and our administrators, make sure we don't deviate and we teach history. So when I walk into history classes, I see, good things happening. So again, we get a lot of things that we hear on what station you listen to or what website you go to. Hey, this is what's happening in schools. And it isn't always the case. It's kind of the what they want you to believe that's happening on it. We have some really good things happening in Brevard schools in our history classes. Our history teachers are amazing, and they teach history. But we shouldn't shy away from anything. We should make any child feel less of an American because of what color they are or where they came from. We need to teach the good and the bad, and the good is always going to overcome here in the United States. So I think the future is bright for all of us.
So earlier this year, I was at a breakfast with a Professor Patterson from FIT, and he is a history teacher over at FIT, and he told a great story that one evening he picked up his cat, and it was raining outside, and he tried to throw his cat outside in the rain, and the cat turned around and scratched him, and he had a horrible cut on his arm, and it ended up scarring. And now he looks at that scar, and it always reminds him he's never going to throw that cat out again. And that's what our history is. It's there. It's a scar. And it doesn't mean we have to shy away from it. We don't have to be embarrassed about it. All we have to do is acknowledge it, talk about it, teach it, let our students know we're human. We made mistakes in the past. But that's okay. We are moving forward. We're not going to look at those mistakes. And those mistakes are not going to tell us who we are today, but what we can be tomorrow. So absolutely, let's keep our history. And again, everything has to be age appropriate. And sitting in my classroom during social studies and talking to my little second graders about, some parts of segregation, they were like, what? We couldn't be sitting in the classroom together if we were white and black. They just find that so wrong, and that's what's the beauty of it, because we've moved forward with this.
So first, I just want to say I listened very carefully to the question, and my answer is yes to the question. How I feel about history is I feel like we do need to study it with the good, bad, and the ugly. But we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So the most important thing is that we learn from our mistakes, and we have pride in the good that we did do. Our founding fathers came together and did something that had never been done before, to give us equal opportunity, to give us the pursuit of happiness. And as we look at the flaws and learn what they are, where we've moved past them, praise God, we don't have that today, right? I mean, we don't. And so that we keep learning from our mistakes and moving forward, but we don't not celebrate the good. The good. This is a great nation, and I will stand every day to advocate for we are a good nation, and we want to do the right thing, and we need to give that to our kids and bring them alongside to help continue to make it better. And so that's what I would like to see. As we teach history, we teach it all, but we stay focused on the good and move forward with the principles that we were given in the very beginning. And that's what I would like to see.
Okay, this question is similar to the last. We're going to segue a little bit, and some of you guys already brought up this topic, so you can elaborate more. Do you think it's important that Brevard teachers stick to approved curriculum and not inject their own personal political views, social activism, or gender ideology into the classroom, including items displayed in the classroom? And what specific
just a one-size-fits-all type issue. So I think it's very important to give the teachers the ability to be creative in their classrooms. And talk about some teachers, like, some students learn differently, some students take longer, some students are late bloomers, so we can't just like, you know, my question is asking, are we just checking off the boxes to do a curriculum? Or do we really want our kids to learn, to take the time to process this information, to learn it, to be able to regurgitate it, to apply it? Like, we have to understand what type of curriculums we're placing in front of them to make sure that they're actually learning and not just checking off a box. Because when I talk to the teachers, like, we're just pushing kids through because we're just trying to check the boxes. What's the point of going to school then? We can't have a glorified babysitter. So, yes, we have to monitor our teachers and make sure that they're not too off to the far to the left. But again, I think part of allowing our teachers to teach and keep the interest of our schools, our students, to be engaged in the classroom, we have to allow them to use their creativity to get the lesson done.
I believe the question was more of the, when teaching a curriculum, bringing things outside the curriculum, inside the classroom, which again, led to probably Megan and myself being on the board, because we saw lots of that happening. As a classroom teacher myself, we have to say, hey teachers, you know, a lot of this, we brought this that scrutiny upon ourselves by too much of that coming in. Now, this is a two-pronged question, because there's an issue right now in Brevard where teachers are like, hey, we've got this very strict curriculum, but we can't look left or right, it's all filled. So I think that's one question and an issue we can talk about, but I think your question was more bringing outside stuff. I mean, we saw stuff where they were talking, you know, second grade teachers were talking to their class about where they went that weekend and how many dates they are having and how many partners they have. You know, those are the things that you want to keep out of the classroom. And we can't just say, well, they're connecting with the students. No, that's why test scores were down. And you can say things are, again, I think things are different. I think teachers are getting it now. But again, I could talk more about that creativity in the curriculum. Of course, we don't need a robot to sit there and go through a curriculum. So teachers, I hear you on that. But I also don't want any political talk during math class. They should know which way I lean, one way or another, when I'm trying to teach the Pythagorean theorem. And I think we had too much of that. We can't have that. And I think we kind of set the message straight here in Brevard. That's not going to happen. So I don't think we need a policy to say, keep that stuff out, just teach. You can look at our test scores and see that teachers are teaching. And that's what's nice here. We don't have a failing district. We have an exciting district that's an A district now for the third year. And we're increasing in every category. So I think we got the message here in Brevard.
And in my 19 years in the classroom, I've never, like I said, I'm a professional. I do my job. Right. And 99% of the teachers do their job. Their job is to teach their children, build relationships with these children, because if you don't have a relationship with these kids, they're not going to learn from you. And we know that building up relationships are very important in the classroom. With that being said, there's always bad apples in any type of job. So we have to be very careful that, you know, we are following protocol. And when we're in a classroom, especially during social studies, there's discussions. People have questions. People have experiences. And those experiences and those questions need to be followed up. We just cannot let them hang there. And so I believe that's where creativity comes in as a teacher, is to steer that conversation the way it needs to be steered and not get lost in the sauce, as they say. So yes, it's very important that teachers be professional, do what they have to do, but also give them the creativity and the professionalism to steer those conversations in ways that make the students feel seen, heard, and somebody can learn about somebody else's experience in life.
So, I just lined up. What's the question?
Regarding teachers sticking to approved curriculum versus injecting their
Yes, I was
personality.
really listening to Cecilia, and I'm like, oh. So actually, what I want to say answer would be in support of, no, I don't want those other ideologies brought into the classroom, different people's social viewpoints. I do believe that if we're talking about creativity around the curriculum, what they are teaching, of course they need some latitude. Every student learns a little differently. I would certainly want that. I did want that when I was working with children. So even adults, we have to adjust by who we're talking to. So within the curriculum, whatever it is you're teaching, and in social studies, you do want discussion and to hear from the different kids. I loved that part of my social studies class where we learned the facts and then we talked a little bit around it. And I think that's really important that we're able to do that. But not be taking them down any particular path to a certain ideology. It's just not, it's not fair, it's not right. We need to stick with the facts, with what we're talking about within the classroom.
All right, our curriculum goes through such a strenuous process to be vetted and make sure that it is complying with state standards. We bring the community into it. We allow parents to sit on that. We have professionals at the district that go through the curriculum, and then there's a timeline that happens. So the curriculum is vetted so heavily that we know that it is a good curriculum, and if there are things in there that we're concerned about, obviously people will bring that forward. I'd like our teachers to stick to the curriculum. I don't think that they should interject maybe their personal stances or political beliefs. And I've been very, very, very blessed. I have had 2 children. I got one that's still currently in the school system, and then we had one daughter graduate, and then I went through the school system. And so I've been blessed with some phenomenal teachers in Brevard County. And one of my favorite stories is one of my daughters, which shall remain nameless. She was in her 7th grade civics class, and her class, they were trying to figure out which political party the teacher was a part of. The students were doing this. This was their thing. And the teacher was like, I'm not telling you that. My job is to teach you to think. My job isn't to tell you what I believe. And so the teacher was very, very neutral. And she had told the students, at the end of the year, if you haven't figured it out, I'll tell you at the very last day of school if you haven't figured it out. And so they're like, okay, they go on about their business, whatever. Months go by. I take our children to vote with us every year when we go and vote. It's that time of year when election season comes around. And so that particular year, it was a primary for Republican governor, and then I went to vote and brought my daughter with us, and so we went in and voted. She got her future voter sticker. I got my voter sticker, and she goes on to school that day, and she noticed that her teacher had a I voted sticker. And so she figured it out, but she didn't tell anybody else. That was problem. I said, see, that's good. Your teacher never disclosed to you where she was at. She let you figure it out through educating you. And so I just say that the best teachers don't have to impose their political views on things. They can teach the curriculum, and they can make that so relatable to students that they will learn and engage, and then they'll start to think their own way and figure out things on their own. And so we've been very blessed with that in Brevard County, and I hope that's what continues to happen.
Thank you. Okay. All right, I don't know how this works with sunshine laws as far as if it's something that you've already voted on, if you want to give me any kind of thought about, but I will leave that up to our 2 incumbents to do whatever you need to do. So let's see, where do we start next? Is it with Jean? Okay, Jean. So you get to decide. So do you agree with the removal of the satellite high school teacher for using a student's preferred name without parental permission? And I know you already voted on that. So do you have any thoughts about that you'd like to share or can share? And then for the people that are not incumbents, if you want to give us your thoughts on how you would have voted about that. It was a very hot issue and still is. People are still having things to say about it. Jean?
Yeah, we've already been through this, and we can talk about it. I think your question said renewal, and that's not what happened. It was a non-renewal of a teacher, and I believe it was the right decision. And if we had it again, I would hope. Again, we don't do HR. Megan's probably going to say the same thing. That's our superintendent, but we agreed with his position on that. And once again, if I was a parent in that situation, I would be thanking the board for looking at parental rights, over anything. So it's pretty simple with me. I think we did the right thing, and I support our superintendent on that
do know, and I've met the teacher, so I do know her, not very well, she's not a friend of mine. But as a teacher, I believe she really got the short end of the stick. And I don't believe she was treated fairly. We're human beings. And this child was not a second grader, it was a high school student. And from what I had heard, this child had been going by this name for many years. It was not just this case here. And for her to be called out and removed for that reason was very cheap. It was a cheap hit on her. She was a highly effective teacher. She was well respected by her students, well respected by the parents. And every board meeting, there was always a big show of support for her. So that spoke volumes. So I do not agree with what our superintendent did, and I would always err on the side of caution and make sure that this teacher really had an opportunity, because she did apologize. She did stop calling that student by that name and started using the name that the parents wanted. And so I just really thought that it was a political trick.
And I know this is a sensitive issue, and I know we're not all going to agree about this, and so let's just be respectful of the person that's talking and get their views on it, and then you take that into your little hearts and decide how you think about it. Okay, Tammy?
Well, I do believe when I heard about it that I just felt like it was heartbreaking for everybody involved. I don't know all the details. I didn't sit on the board. But given that we do have a policy law in place that they are not to call a child by a name not without permission of the parent, I do think that there was the right decision, because she did not contact the parent. And I feel like I have to stand with parent on that, because if I were the parent, I would want to know if my child was starting to think differently, and if it had been going on and I just didn't know about it, I would wanted someone to tell me. And so I am going to stand with the parents' rights to know what's going on here and say I agree with the decision with what I know.
So as Jean mentioned, so it's not the board's responsibility to necessarily investigate something, but I think that this whole entire story got spun in the media as a nickname. That's not what this was. I mean, if you can make it look as nice as you can, nickname, it was a misgendered student. And the reality of the matter is, when you have an employee who says, I knew the law, I've been trained on the law, I chose not to follow the law, I don't know what you're supposed to do from an employer's perspective to say, I mean, to me, it seems extremely fair to say, well, then you don't have a position here. I have run a business with hundreds of employees, and if I had an employee that I sat down and trained him, and I said, this is what you must do, this is how it has to be done, there are laws that follow this, and they just said, no, not going to do it, what are you supposed to do? So obviously the board has voted on this, we made a decision on it, and I know that was a hard decision. And Cecilia, you're right, there were a lot of paid out-of-town protesters that came to our board meeting from Sarasota and the other side of the state. We dealt with that for months on end. Very familiar with where they were from and the organization they were part of, but that's not reflective of the entire community, because for all those people that were in that room, I can't tell you how many other parents that reached out that said, hey, we're glad that you're standing up for parental rights right now, because I would want to know if that was happening in my child's school against my will. So that's where I stand on it.
Again, I'm not privy to all the details in it, so I can't really talk in detail, but I can talk on the surface level. Well, one, it's very important. We know our kids. Like, if you're an engaged parent, you know your kids. You know what they're doing. You should, hopefully, you do. You know what they're doing, how they're acting, how they're moving. So, everybody always says it starts at the home. Well, it doesn't start at the home. So, for the teacher to lose their job for that, no, I don't agree with it. I would, from what I know and heard, I want to vote for the teacher to lose their job, maybe reprimanded in some respect, because they did violate studying stuff. It's hard to get teachers to come here. So what are we doing, right? What are we doing? So we have to make it where people want to come, want to work here, want to stay here, and invest in our kids. And like Cecilia said, people are human. We're going to make mistakes. And a lot of times when you put rules in place, like when we said banning, sanctimonious banning, when you use trigger words like that, people are going to buck the system. That's just how we are. All of us. That's all how we are. We sit here and we don't like the government doing this. We want the government. Well, that's how we act, and that's how these kids are acting. They're becoming what we're doing. We are there. They're looking at us. So I think in order to begin to get ahead of it, be more proactive in regards to helping our kids navigate this.
Okay. Now moving on.
Hang in there, we're almost done here. You guys have been very patient.
This one has a chord, so I think we're good. Okay, this one is moving into an area that I'm passionate about, and I know many people are, families here in Brevard. So Brevard Public Schools is opening a new school in Rockledge for students with significant behavioral needs. Some parents believe these students will benefit from a more specialized environment, while others worry about isolation, stigma, and whether students will be placed there without receiving the same academic opportunities and expectations as their peers. Do you support this model, and how would you ensure that the school provides more than just separation? What specific standards would you demand for curriculum, teacher quality, student support, reintegration when appropriate, and measurable academic outcomes? Starting with Cecilia.
So I did hear about this this new school going up. Again, I really don't have a lot of information on it. I do know that in my school we have certain behavior classrooms and special ed classrooms, and I have a wonderful teacher who's been talked about at the board many times, Ruby Rivera.
Oh, yeah.
She's amazing. And one thing that we always talk about is the importance of bringing all of our children into general education. And we actually saw this year what a difference it made in their testing scores. And we had, it's just amazing, the things that they can learn when they're working with their peers. I also had the pleasure of having a student who was in a self-contained behavior classroom. She was then moved into my classroom, and she was able to then, again, learn from her peers the expectations that were set in the classroom. So I think it's very important that these students do have a possibility to go back into the general education. But again, that has to be made a decision of parents, teachers, and whoever the health care who are involved with that student. Because I do believe that fully integrating all of our students in the public classrooms is the best for everybody.
So I'm not familiar with the details at all around this, so I need to just let you know that. So I have to respond just off of what you told me versus having any prior knowledge to hearing of this. I do know there are some kids who have needs that are beyond what can be serviced in the classroom, in the regular classroom. And if that's what we're providing, I think that's amazing that we're providing that for students who cannot function in the regular classroom. Some parents may choose to homeschool because of stuff like that, or they just feel like they can't go do this or that. But if they have this opportunity, then that child is getting socialization with the other students that have those kind of needs. Like, I think that's really healthy for them to have this opportunity. If they are such that they have improved or whatever their need is to where they could integrate, I do think, but that was part of what you said, if I heard the question correctly, that integration back to the classroom is something that they are going to have consider.
It's just something, would you support an integration?
I would definitely support it if the professionals working with that child and the teachers over here that we're providing something for children who cannot function in a regular classroom. If that's what I'm hearing, I am for it.
Let me tell you about this. I'm so excited about this. So this will be the second school that this board has built debt-free. So let me start with that, right? Like there is no debt that was ever required for the district to build this school, which is a huge deal because we are still climbing out of debt that we acquired in 2008 in that era. But this has been mislabeled as the most severe behavior, and I'm like, this is not what this is exactly. This is our most medically needy students. Some of our kids that really, they're never going to be able to sit in a gen ed class just because of what their requirements are. Some of them are G-tube fed students. I mean, they are severe. Now, there are some that have severe behaviors as well. So what ended up happening was, unfortunately, we had 2 schools that closed down. They weren't ours. We subcontracted out to Fieldston, and what was the other one, Gene? Do you remember? Riverdale. Yeah, Riverdale. Okay, they closed down overnight, and the school board was forced with, because they took our most medically needy, vulnerable students, and the school board was forced with overnight having to open up a school that handles our most vulnerable students. Prior to being on the school board, I owned a home health agency working strictly with developmental disabilities. Like, this is my world. I know these kids inside and out, these families. And so when I went there and I looked at this school, I went, oh my gosh, I know that we're doing the best that we could with very limited resources and no time at all, but this isn't the best that we can actually do for these students. So the board took the initiative to go over and look in Orange County at a school called Magnolia, and that school it just blew our minds. I mean, every one of us, I think I left there feeling like I was in tears, like, oh my gosh, we have to be able to bring this back to Brevard and do this for our students that are the most medically needy. And so we were excited to bring that back. So it's not necessarily behavior. So this isn't like, hey, we're going to take you out of your traditional school setting because you're not behaving correctly and put you in this school, and then hopefully we can straighten the behaviors out and put you back in their school. That's not necessarily the plan here. This is going to be more so for our very vulnerable students. And honestly, this is going to set these kids up with a path towards success that they would not otherwise have. And so it's going to be something amazing. We're very, very excited about it. I can't wait for the community to get behind it and see it as it comes together. But it's not that we're trying to segregate or separate or pull these kids away. It's that we can't serve them in a general ed classroom the way that we can serve them in this special needs school. So it's going to be amazing. Sorry, I'm going to bring the mic. Yeah, very excited about it.
Yes, I'm like Ms. Tammy. I really don't know much about school. Obviously, I've read articles and things of that sort of what's coming. But yeah, anything to help our kids be better, I'm all for it. I'm definitely an advocate for that. Definitely want to advocate just for one for schools because we need work on our infrastructure and things like that in our school. And then I've been hearing about behavior. So behaviors is the issue. So definitely want to implement something where we can help these students, maybe take them out of the classroom and then help them be better and then place them back in the general population. So this is definitely something that I want to do in District 1. Thank you.
Megan, thank you so much for doing that. Yeah, what she said. But I'll go on a little bit on why you asked that question. Who's still thinking that? Thank you, Florida yesterday, because I always get the news backwards. Is because it isn't the ALC, the Alternative Learning Centers, that we closed down. I worked there. I worked at the ALCs, and I saw those behaviors. And of course, we want to get those kids back into the schools. That's why we shut those down, because they were failures. And we could talk about that program for an hour and how successful that is. But the Magnolia School, which it won't be called Magnolia, I think it already has a name, doesn't it? I think so. But I went through a tour the other day, and it was amazing. Hey, wait till you get when it opens up for the community to walk through that school. Please, I don't care where you live, come walk through that school. They have these observation rooms where you can go in, and it's windows, where you can see in, they can't see you, where the professionals will be observing behaviors and evaluating teachers at the time, the programs. They're going to be teaching real life skills that these kids need. They're going to be, making, I think Magnolia, they make, this was a school down in Indian River. They actually had them make food in the kitchens, and they opened up for the community and, teaching these kids real skills that they're going to be able to use when they leave this school. This school, we will have communities, districts visiting our school from around the state, if not around the country. We hired it's exciting, the same contractor that built Magnolia, and he's coming in with I wish I would have done this in Magnolia. and I wish I would have done this. So this is going to be state-of-the-art for a facility for these most needy children. So when we see that servicing all students with excellence, these are the students that we are serving the most. And I am most blessed to be on a board with people like Megan, because she spearheaded this more than any of us. And really, you know, I knew about the ALCs, but she took that and we went down there and visited those schools. You guys are going to be blown away. But don't believe everything you read.
Okay, I can move on all the way through. Okay, so I think we start with Tammy. We're just gonna talk for a minute, hang in there, about physical education. Are we still getting it first? I'm sorry, is it? Okay, well good, I'm glad because you are classroom teachers. So, we'd like to talk for a minute about physical education. We are under the impression that has maybe been pulled back a little bit, and we're concerned about our children with childhood obesity and overall health of our children. And so we're just wondering how you feel about physical education being a part of the school day.
Oh, love this one. I read a book this summer. It's called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. Yes, it's a beautiful book. And one thing that he really talked about was the amount of screen time that our kids are on and the lack of outdoor play. So, when I get on the school board, if I'm blessed to be, I will be pushing for more outdoor time for our students. And not just elementary, all the way through high school. Students need to be outside. They need to have free time. Those little kids on the playground, when they start running and all of a sudden the rules change in the middle of the game, you should see some of them. They're like, what? You told me I could move here, and all of a sudden there's discussion. And then they learn, oh, okay, if we're going to play this game, I got to follow the rules. If not, I'm going to walk away and they're going to play a different game. So students really need this free time and to go outside and learn, because it's all social skills. And that will also help with their movement in the classroom. So.
I am definitely for physical education class, whatever that looks like. I think my understanding is Brevard Schools has already brought it back, and in elementary as well. And if it's not, I would certainly be supporting it. But yeah, I'm all for that. Physical education is truly important because our physical health is just as important as our mental and our spiritual health. So I feel like that is absolutely super important. And since Cecilia went there, I'm going to add to what she's saying. I just saw in the news that recess time in the nation, and unfortunately, Florida is one of the states that's a little under. And I don't know what we're doing in Brevard, but I'm like, whoa, why are we up there? Kids need that, they need breaks, they need to go outside, and so I'm all for recess and for physical education.
Some of this is obviously that the legislature obviously tells us that we have to have so many minutes of physical education. Sorry, I'm getting tongue twisted. And which we do. But could we do more? I think we could, and I don't, I would love to see our kids outside more. I think we've championed outdoor classrooms. That's been something that we see popping up around the district, and that's a really new way of just, hey, let's bring the kids outside and see how well they learn in an outdoor classroom. Now, we have to realize we live in Florida. It was 107-degree heat index the other day, y'all. I know, I was out there. And and we also have rain every day. So those are some of the hurdles that we have because of the weather that's here. But obviously, I am in favor of physical education and making sure that kids have as much playtime as possible, because I think they learn so much through that, and their social interaction, it's tremendous. So whatever we can do to increase it, I would obviously be on board for.
Yep, I absolutely agree. Physical education for everybody. Very much said.
All right, I'll take my minute on this. It goes back to a previous question. You talked about curriculum and creativity. Teachers, you're not bound to your four walls. If you have a lesson that, you can do anything outside, please do so. As a math teacher, I took kids out and we said, find out how many geometric shapes you can find. And we just got outside. You get a good day, you tell the principal, hey, it's good weather, we're going to be outside. So I always stress to teachers, get your kids outside. It's still the curriculum, but be creative and get them out. So that's always good things to do. This also leads, so we all agree we should be getting out and doing things. No disagreement there. But this also brings in something that this board was proactive to do, and we brought in elementary and middle school athletics that didn't exist prior. So we got soccer. Low cost, right? Roll the ball. And, it got kids off the screens because they got to stay after school and have some kind of activity. And that was huge. You had flag football, and even in high school, the girls, I can talk about this. We watched the girls flag football this year, and my daughter played. It was amazing. And we're not done yet. We are getting kids out. And then the presidential physical fitness is back. So we could talk, I want to talk about this afterwards. My table's right over there. But we got to get these kids out and running, and we are.
All right, we have come to our final question. All right, so as an autism specialist and a health coach and I guess a MAHA mom, and I know we have lots of MAHA moms out here in Brevard, this one goes to the heart of this. I would like to know if you would commit to bringing real food, whole food, to Brevard schools instead of heavily processed options, and would you support adding nutrition education and school gardens or growing programs to the curriculum so kids actually learn where their food comes from and how to grow it?
Yes, some of this comes, believe it or not, from federal regulation on what we are allowed to buy and what we are not allowed to buy. So as the MAHA movement moves forward and we want to dismantle some of the federal regulations, this would be a good area to start at. So districts' hands are tied in some aspects when it comes to what we can buy. So much so, listen, when I first got on the board, I tried to say, hey, can we start a quote-unquote recycling program where kids purchase a lunch, then they don't open up, they don't touch, they don't eat whatever that item is. It could be a peanut butter and jelly that's in a package or an orange or something, and they throw them away. And so I was going to our district, I went to food and nutrition, I said, hey, let's start a recycling program. These kids, other kids will come by and pick that orange up or grab that PB&J and take it. And we couldn't do it because of the regulations that we have. And so this is a struggle that we have, is that we're bound to certain regulations. Absolutely support it. We have very excited in the North End District 1. We've championed this, and it'll be coming this next school year, but we're creating an agriculture program up there because there's a lot of farmlands that happen in District 1. So absolutely support it. We'd love to see it on a smaller scale at all of our schools. It won't be quite the level it is at Astronaut, but yes, I support that initiative.
Yes, I definitely absolutely support that. Hope that, like you say, you guys would push to have that regulation is removed so that we can have real food in our schools.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good idea. We already do have, some of our schools will have an outdoor garden. They're not obviously, putting that in the cafeteria, but they're growing some things, and we're excited about that. They're getting excited about that. I would absolutely support. That is on my list of things. Can't talk too much about it, but I really want to hit the cafeterias and push those boundaries. And if we're being held back by any federal regulations, what can we do to get around that? That has anything to do with the Federal Department of Education. Thank God that should be going away here soon, and we can handle it at a local level. And the more we can teach our kids to provide for themselves and their healthy choices, get them outside. I watched a little, it was a podcast with Tina Deskovich and Matt Susan, and she brought up that when she was on the board, they fought to get real chicken in our cafeterias. Imagine that. But it's so bad. I was on a small school board in Illinois, and we could not pick the best food for our kids. It was against state regulations. We had to take the cheapest food and give to our kids. So that's where we need to fight.
Okay,
So, obviously, we do want the best for our children, and as a mother and now a grandmother, I'm, very interested in that. We are feeding our children and my grandchildren real food. I lived 10 years over in Italy, so I know from, farm to table and mentality over there, and very healthy people over in the Mediterranean diet. So yes, it's very important. And as Megan was saying, in my classroom, when we would, I bring the children back to my classroom to eat on Fridays, and whenever kids didn't want something, I had like a little basket that they were allowed to put that apple or that banana or that pea. Yes, just so that if another child wanted to eat it later, they had a snack over there. But it was just in my classroom. So.
That sounds amazing. That's what I was thinking when I heard you say all that. I thought, well, I would love to make that happen if it's not already in motion. But I understand there are a lot of maybe hurdles, rules, laws, whatever to get around. So I don't know. And so I would absolutely support the effort for that. Actually, as part of the oversight committee, I get to go and view different projects that are going on. And I actually got to see some of the gardens that are being planted next to the schools, and I thought that was amazing. And I think the more we can do that and think bigger with that, and maybe down the road we can make the connection that you are suggesting, that would be absolutely fabulous, like the community gardens that people have started and shared their products. I think that's an amazing idea, and I could wrap my head around that in a nanosecond.
Just so you guys all know, we do have a fresh line in our cafeterias now, and that's been very successful. So successful, they had to close down the pizza area because more kids were wanting the fresh line. I mean, it's like a Chipotle on steroids. It's really nice. You guys, if you don't know this is happening, question your kids, because of course some of them, if they don't like it, they won't tell you it's there. But there's fresh food at our cafeterias. It's called the Fresh Line. And we've been redesigning and putting money in our cafeterias, a little. I think they're all there now, but it's really good. Now we're going back and putting multiple, like another fresh food line in some of these cafeterias. So it's really good.
All right, well, we are wrapping up. So we would like to hear just a final thought from you. You have 2 minutes, but please, if you don't feel like taking 2 minutes, we've heard a lot from you all, and we appreciate everything that you all said. I mean, I think Brevard Public Schools is in pretty good hands, with its great candidates, right? So, where do we start last?
I think it's Tammy.
Tara, you're up.
Tara,
Just a final thought for the night, okay?
First off, I didn't say this in the beginning, but thank you for having me and giving me a seat at the table. It means a lot to be here. There was a lot of questions I asked in regards to personal opinions and things of that sort, but it's hard, again, as a human, like we're all human, and so for people to sit up here and answer these questions is like, but people are human, you have to remember that, and they're going to operate from a human perspective. A lot of people up here give their opinions from their own personal beliefs, right? But when you sit in that seat, you can't do that. You have to put students first. You have to see what the teachers want. You have to talk to people. You have to come to a common ground. Everybody don't think like you do. Everybody don't believe like you do. In order for us to have a great society for the greater good, we all have to come together and meet in this common ground. And I believe our common ground is for our students to be successful and succeed, right? And that's what we have to push forward to. I'm like I said, my background is, I have a strong background in athletics. I used to referee. And being a referee, you have people screaming at you, yelling at you, cussing you out, but you still gotta lock in, you still gotta stay focused and call the game as you see it, right? You gotta be able to have that strength and fortitude to be like, I don't care who's pushing me left and right, I'm gonna do what's best here. I'm gonna make the right call. I'm gonna do what's best for the greater good. And that's what I'm planning. What I would like to do is do the best for the greater good. Our schools in District 1, they need help. Our teachers need help. Our students need help. And I feel like I'm the leader that can provide that help and take us to another level. We are moving into a different time. And we have to know how to bring the old with the new, because it's coming. Regardless if you guys want to believe it or not, it's coming. Back in the day, you can imagine gay marriages. Well, it's here. So we have to get ahead of a lot of this stuff to help navigate, help our kids understand how to make these choices. If you want to make the right choice, if you want them to do what you feel like they should do, we have to learn how to help them make those decisions. We can't just say, no, you can't go here, go there. They're going to figure it out. They're going to find a way to get there. So that's what the leadership that I'm offering. Thank you.
All right, and I don't keep this up here for my notes. I keep it up here to remind myself why I'm running and why I ran in 2022. And that's my kids, that's my family. And you know, we don't live in a democracy, we live in a representative government. And in 2022, I would tell my people out there when I would be knocking doors is, you know what, I do want you to expect my decisions to be put on the 65,000 students out there. And if you like what I give you, then you don't have to come out on a Tuesday night and wave signs and come up and speak for 3 minutes and yell at people. You're going to be able to spend time at home because you know I'm going to make the decisions that I would make for these kids right here, that I've made in my classroom for 20 years, and I'm going to make them for 65,000 students out there and all the parents. And you know what? It worked. Okay? We were a failing school district. We are no longer a failing school district. Not that we have failing teachers, but leadership matters. It starts with the superintendent. I'm blessed to say I've had 20 years plus. I've had more experience in education than any current board member and any current person running for the district. That's no disrespect. That's just the truth. Okay? And I can fall back on my experiences and say, well, did it work? You guys are the final say. You guys have two incumbents to look at between District 1 and District 2 and say, we hired them for a job. Did they complete the job? And if you can say no, but it's probably political, and that's wrong, shame on you. We have the highest graduation rate in the history of Brevard County. We have great teacher retention. Don't believe the Florida yesterday. They don't know what they're talking about. Okay? We are, if you look at our data, 20 out of 21 testing areas, we didn't maintain, we increased. We have 79% of our schools that are A-B schools. When we started 3 years ago, it was 64%. We have 13 more A schools than we did then. We have been successful, and we deserve another 4 years. Not that we are all the way there, but we've got more work to do, and we can't go back.
So, 19 years in the classroom, raised 2 daughters, owned a business, lived 10 years abroad. I have a lot of experience. I have a lot of diverse experience that I can bring to this board. And mostly, I have the passion for our students. I believe education is the greatest equalizer. And it is our job as a society to make sure that that funding stays in our public schools for every child. And we can do better. There's a lot of improvements that we need to make. We have to be able to reach out to more families. We have to reach out to more students, make sure that we have family voices, we hear the student voices, we hear our teacher voices. We need to make sure that we retain our high quality teachers, and we have to get away from this fear that we have instilled in our classrooms. So, District 5, I hope that I will be able to represent District 5 because I know that I will bring passion and integrity to the district.
So I believe that the school board position is not a one-lane job. It is multifaceted, and I believe that I can bring that. I'm a military spouse for over 35 years, and so I have a huge breadth of experience to bring, from educating children, teens, and adults, to directing large-scale events, to leading philanthropic efforts that support families. I have large-scale budget experience that I've just shared, that I'm doing right now for Brevard schools. I've already been working to bring opportunities to the students. I believe in conservative value-based looking at things. It's the best for our kids. Common sense over nonsense, safety first, and I will support decisions that strengthen academic excellence and opportunity for every child to succeed. I'm already on it. I'm in the game. Put me on the roster. Vote Tammy Dennis, August 18th.
Well, thank you, Moms for Liberty. You guys have had probably one of the most dynamic forums that I have seen yet. A lot of times we get asked questions and we tend to answer the same thing, but this one actually drew out differences. And so I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to make our viewpoints known to everyone. Again, as Jean, you stated, I appreciate it. We gave us all the stats. Everyone knows the stats. We've been on the board now for 4 years, and we've done really, really good work. So despite what a lot of the media outlets put out there, it's not factually accurate. We have changed the trajectory of this district. I have fought for 4 years. We have gotten resources pulled back to District 1 that were not there prior to. So we've had career and technical education programs that have launched under my leadership. We've built 2 schools now debt-free since I've been on the board. And it's been an honor and a privilege, truly, to be a part of this school board. We've stood there and took the arrows. We've dealt with some difficult topics, but I will say where I sit today, I feel like we are on the right trajectory, and our district is going the right direction. And there's no reason at this point to change directions, because where we're headed is bringing Brevard County back into a top 10 school district for the state. That is my goal. So I really thank you guys all for coming tonight. I thank you for listening to all of our opinions and our differing views, and to every candidate up here, thank you, because you guys are all exposing yourself and putting yourself out there to everyone, and that takes some courage to do. So appreciate each and every single one of you, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to try to earn your vote. Megan Wright, I'll be on the ballot August 18th, so hopefully I earned